Oh, hey there. It's Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, here today to teach you how to make the perfect Paschimottanasana. Say that 10 times fast. Paschimottanasana is our basic seated forward fold. Why is it called Paschimottanasana? Paschimottanasana is a really long, weird word that means stretch of the western side. What's your western side? Well, your western side is your entire back side of your body, from your heels to your head. Why? Because when we do our sun salutations, we do it facing the east, facing the rising sun. So the front of your body would be the east, the back of your body would be the west. I hope you can figure out what north and south are. Okay, so we're going to stretch out the west side of our bodies today, starting out with our legs straight in front of us. Now, legs out in front is not going to be enough, okay? We actually are going to start off by lengthening the back of the leg before we even do anything else. In so doing, we're going to grab our butt. Yes, you now have permission to grab your butt and pull it backwards so that your sits bones, that's the bones in your butt, you can feel them rooting on the floor, and you're going to scoop both of them back. Now, I know this is massively unsophisticated, grabbing your butt and actually pulling it out of the way. There is sort of a more dainty way of doing this, which would be just moving the heels forward, but who doesn't like a good butt grab every once in a while? So just pulling the hips back is going to lengthen the line of energy from your heel to your hip. Now, when I do a forward fold, remember that in yoga, every forward bend always has an element of a back bend. Now I know that seems like a contradiction in terms, but it's really not. Because a forward bend is initiated from the hips, whereas a back bend is initiated from the spine. So whereas when we were in first grade, we learned that a forward bend looked like this, and we were trying to curl our bodies into our knees and get as low as we can. Sometimes it involved bouncing, like, okay? That ain't it. We're going to maintain a back bend, not only in this posture, but really in almost every pose in yoga. With the exception of cat pose, where we actually round our spine excessively, yoga is all about a healthy spine, so we're going to maintain this opening. What does this mean for you? If when you take Paschimottanasana, you lean forward and you find that your body is crouching way back like this, or that you're just rounding down like this, the first thing we're going to do is take your hands behind you. Fingertips would be great, not palms, because you don't want to be leaning back into this one. And as if you could shoot your shoulders away from your hips, you're going to press into your thumbs and lift your chest up. You'll see that there's a little back bend in my thoracic spine. Now, this doesn't look as deep as this now, does it? We're going to do a little test. First, let's do it the crappy way. Go down, round your spine the way that you're used to, and see if you can touch your head to your knees, okay? Doesn't matter if you touch your head to your knees, but go ahead and round down the easy way. And I want you to just feel what's going on in your hamstrings, because I'm going to guess not that much. Now, come up, put your hands behind you, take a back bend and roll your shoulders back, and as you lean forward, instead of rounding forward, keep that back bend and see how low you can go, and check in again with your hamstrings. Not so sure? Round your back. Your head will seem lower, so you'll think you're deeper. Flatten your back. Your head will be higher. Can you feel the difference? That flat back is going to make all the difference in the world. Why? Because your hamstrings, and this is primarily a hamstring stretch, are connected to your pelvis, right? So when I round forward, what happens to my pelvis? It tucks under and allows my hamstrings to shorten. However, if I tilt my pelvis forward in a back bending action, it pulls my hamstrings longer to take me deeper into the pose. Now, feet. Feet get a little weird on this one. Most people have a tendency to supinate. That means that they turn their feet like this, like the pinky toe edges tend to fall in. Some people may pronate, which would be heels out, but I don't see that very often. So, we got some choices. If you can reach your feet, grab your pinky toe edge and pull it backwards as you forward fold. Notice the back is still flat though. Don't round your spine. So we're trying to get our feet up against an imaginary wall. But if imaginary walls aren't good for you, you lack creativity or whatnot, use a block as your wall. Requires a little bit of extra flexibility, but if I take my block on the vertical, I can keep my feet flat against the block, which would be the equivalent of flat against the wall. Gets rid of all my supination. And if you're more bendy, maybe there's 2 blocks in your future. I doubt there's 3 if you're using the full-size blocks, but you never know. Here's the thing. If you get so low, as I am, with the stomach and the chest on the thighs and the back bend, at that point, you just earned yourself permission to drop your head. Why? Because the pelvic bowl is tilting up and over, and there's no way to lie flat on your legs with a back bend, just because you need to go over the thighs. So, first you lengthen, and exhale, you fold. Now, I always hear this. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, depth, right? I don't just hear it, I actually say it. But when I see it in class, people do this. Inhale up, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. It doesn't mean that. Try not to go up when you're on a quest to go down, because all you're doing is counteracting your own efforts. Instead, think of it this way. Whether your hands are behind you or in front of you, when you inhale, lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, try to fold down a little bit. Remember, your head is not aiming for your knees. It's actually aiming for your feet. Now on your next inhale, instead of bopping up, see if you can lengthen out a little bit more. And on your next exhale, down a little more. Inhale, I lengthen. Exhale, I deepen. Now, shoulders. They have a big tendency to round. So once I get into my pose, I'm going to roll my shoulders back and down. It doesn't matter how low you are in this pose, as long as you're feeling a stretch. Now, if you're massively tight, you got options. A, you can sit yourself up against a wall. See if you can get your entire tailbone and back against the wall, nice and flat, because if you're very tight and used to rounding, this will be enough. This might be too much. Make sure your tailbone and shoulders and back are all on the wall and there's no rounding in your spine. Need a little less? Take your feet apart a little bit. Need a little less? It's okay to bend your knees, but bend your knees as little as necessary in order to feel the stretch across the hamstrings and across the low back. Now, remember that hamstrings, open hamstrings, are not only important to my entire yoga practice, but super important to the granddaddy of all poses, handstands. Open hamstrings are gonna A, keep your legs straight on those presses, and B, give you bigger splits so it's easier to press up. So one more time. My heels are out, Paschimottanasana. We're gonna stretch out the back side of our bodies. I'm gonna move my butt flesh out of the way, so I've got nice length across my hamstrings, and my sits bones are rooted. Maintaining a back bend, I can keep my hands behind me and push forward, or if I have the length, I can grab my feet. Outer edges of the feet are a good idea if you tend to supinate, meaning toes in. Inhales, I lengthen. Exhales, I create depth. Make sure you're maintaining that back bend in your upper spine until your stomach and your chest are both on your legs. At that point, you can consider bringing your head down to the legs and your shoulders your back. Now, I know the hamstring stretches can be very frustrating. The weird thing about hamstrings is they have a tendency to get really tight if either A, you sit a lot, and a lot of us do that, or B, you're super active, like you run a lot and you don't stretch. So, get stretching. I know sometimes these stretches are hard, but they're always worth it in the end. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, wishing you open, happy hamstrings.